One of the torsion springs on my garage door broke, and I wasn't even going to make a video about it, but I ended up ordering the wrong ones, and so this is a video about me taking out the improper springs and then replacing them with the correct ones. Now, the mistake I made was not paying attention to the proper size diameter wire, and that made a huge difference. These springs are thicker, and so they pull up with too much force for the amount of times you need to tension the spring for the garage door to lift up. And this video is twice the speed, so the whole thing took me 22 minutes to change out. Now, as you hear the winding bars go in, you want to make sure that they seat all the way down. You don't want them flying out, so just listen to them pop in place. Here what I did is adjusted the bar so that it would rest on the top ledge of the garage door. I loosened the screws, they're 10mm square screws, and then I just started unwinding it 1/4 turn at a time. Of course, wear your eye protection. You see I have eye protection there. Now the garage door is off the track. Now what I'm going to do is remove the center bolts there that hold the springs together, and they attach to a bracket against the wall of the garage. These were 15mm here. There's one on top, one on bottom. Now you can see the bar can fall out of that bracket, so I'm grabbing a pair of vice grips and I'm going to clamp it so that it locks the bar into the bracket. That's what the bolts would normally do, but since I have the bolts out, the vice grips are going to take its place. And now this is going to allow me to slide the bar back and forth without it falling. Now here I'm taking out the square bolts for the spools on either side for the wire cables. I'm going to undo that one and then undo the one on the other side so that I can slide the bar left and right. Here I'm stuck because I didn't loosen the screws enough on the right hand side. So now that they're loose, I'm able to remove the spool, just place it off to the side, and now I can slide the spring off. Same thing on the other side. Slide the bar, remove the spool, take the spring back. Alright, now it's time to exchange the springs. I'm back from Home Depot. Got the right springs now. I got my GoPro on my head so that you can see what my hands are doing. There are my new winding bars. Now these springs are color coded. One is marked red, one is marked black. The red is a right hand turn, but it goes on the left side of the garage as you're on the inside. So I'm trying to slip it on the pole. I didn't undo those screws so they weren't going on. Just do that before you do it. Slide the spool back on. Now you see how much sway goes into that bar. That's why those vice grips are important in the middle there. Slide the right side on. Put the spool and then place it back in. Now the cable fell off the spool on this side. There's a little notch that it slips into with the ferrule. Make sure that that's all the way up and properly placed. So I actually talked to a garage door expert, and he told me to do the left hand side first. So what you'll do is find yourself a pair of vice grips, and you want to clamp the bar so that it doesn't rotate while you're doing all your adjustments. So there we go. I took all the tension out of the cable. It's wrapped on the spool, and now I'm tightening my 10mm square bolts. Just enough to hold it in place. You don't have to get crazy and over tighten it. But you want all the slack taken out, and that's what that vice grip is doing up on the left hand side. Now I'm just adjusting the cable, making sure it's routed the correct way. Got a little messed up when it fell down. Same thing here. Pull the slack out by twisting on that spool, and then tighten your two 10mm square bolts. Vice grips have done their job. Now I'm just putting the two 15mm bolts to hold the springs together. There we go. Now what I'm doing is I'm placing some vice grips just above the wheels on either side. I don't want the door flying up, but I want it resting on the ground when I start the whole tensioning process. So this is just going to keep it on the ground. Get my winding bars. Oh, it looks like I forgot my eye protection. There we go. Got my eyeglasses. Okay, no tension on the spring. I'm offset from the bars, so I don't want one hitting me in the face in case something comes loose. And now I'm going to do this. I think I did it 27 times the first time. It turned out that it wasn't enough, but I didn't want it being too tight and then making the door fly up, and then I'll have a hard time closing it so that I can readjust it. So I just started with a lower number. 30 is supposed to be the good rule of thumb. Again, I'm resting the bar against the upper ledge so that I can tighten the 10mm square bolts. And then once I have everything tightened, I'm just going to pull that bar out. Same thing on the other side. Now once you have everything tensioned and you're setting the travel on your garage door and how much force it pushes up and pushes down, keep in mind that you may have to adjust those things. There's a set of screws on one side of the garage door opener. You can't see it, the opener here in this frame, but it's on one side, and that'll adjust the travel. If you do one full revolution, it's about 2 inches of travel, depending on where you want it to stop or where you want it to open. And then on the other side of your garage door opener, you're going to have the strength, basically how hard you want it to force close or how hard you want it to pull open. So if it's bouncing up or if it's not closing all the way, you're going to have to adjust that. There we go, removing my pliers. And now I'm going to there we go. Now I'm removing the pliers. I'm just making sure it's off the track. I have my foot stepped on the lower edge. I don't want it flying up. And I see the door is easy to lift, but it's supposed to go up halfway by itself. So I didn't put enough tension in the springs. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do an extra few quarter turns so that I can get to 30. Let's see what I do here. Lock the bar in place, resting it on the upper ledge, loosening the square bolts. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so yeah, I did do 27 the first time, so now we're at 30. Both sides get equal tension. And you don't want to over tighten these things. What I read is you want them to contact and do another quarter turn. I did a little more than that. Okay, removing my vice grips. There we go. Stays up halfway. That's supposed to be good. And I'm putting the door back on the track. Now that all is said and done, you can see my wife's van is back in the garage, and the garage door is working just fine.